All right, everyone. If there's one thing that I don't like, it's the overuse of linguistic terms. In this case, Nazi. Now, what is a Nazi? In the strictest definition, it means somebody who is a member of the NSDAP. So specifically, they would be German or German diaspora. They would be a member of the literal Nazi party. The extension of this, on the first level at least, is white supremacy in general, or hatred of people who are, practicing Jews or something like that. There was an attack a few days ago in DC outside of the Israeli embassy. This is now being labeled by the legacy media as a Nazi attack. First, the individuals that were harmed were both Christians, apparently. That's apparently one problem there. So they weren't even practicing Jews. And number two, Palestine, as far as I knew, is not an NSDAP territory. I believe that the Nazi Party dissolved some time ago. When was it? Around 1944, actually, 45. Radio Werewolf being the last broadcasting station that was there, and of course, then there were some rat lines that were operating. But other than that, it had pretty much been put to foot, so to speak. Um, the whole Nazi thing is absolutely moronic. The idea that there's this magnificent magical army of tens of millions, maybe hundreds of millions of Nazis all around the world is completely wrong. What it's based on is the premise that if you criticize Israel in any way, of course, I'm not promoting shooting people because they're, from Israel or something like that, but if you promote Israel, I mean, if you oppose Israel in any way, if you oppose Netanyahu, depending on your political proclivities, it seems, and that's rather strange too, etc., it makes you a Nazi. Kanye is a black Nazi, for example. There were black Nazis. There were Afrika Korps, actually, in World War II, but that's an entirely different issue. If you criticize Israel, if you criticize anyone who happens to be Jewish, if you criticize anything like this, if you criticize, U.S. aid to Israel, then all of a sudden, magically, you're basically no different from Adolf Hitler. I disagree with this. I think that there is nuance with regards to this particular case. Did Israel get attacked by Hamas? Yeah. Was the response fundamentally, at least in its early inception, justified to try to return the hostages that were taken? Yeah, nobody criticizes you for that. But you're now years into this particular struggle, um, and at this point, it's become massively unhelpful for U.S. diplomacy. Now, do I give a shit if civilians are harmed? Yeah, I do. That's why I would rather not harm more civilians. I'd rather simply repatriate people who are from the United States and call it a day. That's the only thing that matters to me. It is not my fight. It is not my war. I'm not going to ask other Americans to go to war for the same purpose. I'm going to stand on principle on this one. I think that people would think that I was a sellout if I didn't. Israel is run by an authoritarian regime in which Netanyahu is predominantly concerned with maintaining power. And that's basically the only thing that he seems to care about, actually. It's really, really sad, too. The area could be lovely, with fig trees and olive gardens and all sorts of other stuff all over the place. I mean, you've got arable land, you've got a lot of tourist attractions. You could all be rich, but, god damn, it seems that people are incapable of constructing such a wonderland, so to speak. Also good weather. Well, most of the year at least. By Vermont standards, yeah, I wouldn't mind being at the Dead Sea at the moment. I'm in New York City. It's not bad. It's a lot warmer than Vermont. Anyway, these people over in the Middle East keep bombing one another constantly. The war is effectively incessant, it's unending, and I don't understand why the United States continues to bother getting involved in these struggles. I simply do not understand it. And to call somebody a Nazi when they say free Palestine and then kill a couple of Israeli diplomats, that doesn't make them a Nazi. It makes them pro-Palestine. And they've gone crazy. It doesn't mean that they're a fucking Nazi. They're not a member of the NSDAP. This individual is not a member of the literal Nazi party or anything like that. This is not a skinhead. Stop trying to blame white people for everything that goes on bad in the world. It seems to be a habitual issue for certain people. But this is not a Nazi. This is somebody who is radicalized, I suppose, and believes that it's acceptable to shoot people in order to try to free a country that doesn't even on paper really exist. That does not make them a member of the NSDAP. I get so tired of it. It's so tiresome. And you almost get exhausted sometimes, like, God, I've got to take a goddamn nap because, I'm just done with this shit. Because that's really how it lays when you think about it. That's about all. Peace out.